Wheel of Time episode 3, where I should just repeat the Ahsoka review because that has much to do with the Wheel of Time books as this show does. We start with Nynaeve going through the accepted test.
What do they do?
Many things, child.
Well, that's helpful, love. You study for decades to become an Aes Sedai, and the best you can get away with is, it can do anything. That's my great knowledge there. Then we get some bigotry because, you know, Rafe, some massive twat.
Made during a time when women could create objects from the one power itself.
And men, you know, the far stronger, better users of the power. Don't want to talk about that though, do we? Now the women were too busy destroying the earth.
Some Terra Angreal are made to work by Aes Sedai like this one.
It's true, actually. It says that these rings have murdered over 100 innocent people, so it probably was the women that made this one. I'll give the Aes Sedai that.
We don't know why they were made. Most we've learned at great cost to avoid.
Sorry, just decided to start sending innocent young girls through them, see what happened. Seemed like a bit of a laugh. What if they were invented to make people suffer agonies beyond your comprehension, and you're just like, let's send the students through it? What is it, University College London?
Many Aes Sedai have been killed or burned out learning that.
So you're saying there's an upside? It's okay, they're only side characters, they won't be missed. As long as it's not Rand, Matt and Perrin, you can do what you want with them. In fact, all these scenes in the tower could just be replaced by a giant screen that said loading the main content. Please wait.
Do you want me to just walk through them?
I didn't before, but I do now, love. In fact, if you stay over there, I'll wet myself laughing.
We know what this one does. It will bring you face to face with your greatest fears.
What's the greatest fears of Nynaeve in this show? Not being able to upload a selfie to Instagram. What will I do without the attention?
What those fears are for you to know, and you need to tell no more than you wish.
I do like that there she says, you need to tell no more than you wish, but later on, they're like, we don't give a piss, please stop telling us. Keep it to yourself, love, no one cares. I agree.
Walk through one arch and out again.
If you wish to boil it down that far, yes.
The disdain in her voice was incredible, wasn't it? Well, yeah, if you want to boil it down to the point of being a wreath, then yes, I guess. Also makes the one power spin your hands, make weird stuff happen. Generally, we prefer more technical terms. But they tell her that once she starts, she can't go back, she will get kicked out of the tower. So now she has to say yes or no, and she gets 3 point-blank refusals before she gets kicked out of the tower. Whereas if you go on, you might die or get turned into Leandrin, which is worse. But then Leandrin gives probably the worst advice ever for anything.
If you are doing this for someone else, you will fail. Do this for you, or not at all.
Yeah, be entirely selfish or you'll die. It's like, what? The entire point of morals is actually doing stuff for other people is what gives you the strength. It's kind of, I don't know if you realise, the basis of the entire pissing story. Rand isn't trying to save the world for himself. He's trying to save for the world, for the people inside the pissing world. Like, Rand should only care about himself. If you're not an ignorant, selfish cow, you'll fail. I have a feeling whoever wrote that line has failed at a lot of stuff in their life.
I'm ready.
I'm ready to watch you do it as well. So they put her in a shift rather than the whole hog that they had in the books.
Not even the one power will be available.
Yeah, they didn't tell him that because they couldn't channel in there anyway. So in this, they've actually physically removed her ability to channel, despite the fact that if she couldn't channel there in the books, then she would have died. Which means in this, she would have died and should die. Because the way they wrote it, it doesn't make any sense, but it's just like the rest of the series, so who cares?
The way back will come, but once.
Unless it comes twice, for absolutely no reason. I would just fire the entire production crew, and the only thing I would put in under reason why is this pissing episode. But they activate the archers, and she walks through the sort of shimmering, watery gateway and immediately gets cut in half by 1,000 spinning blades. The Trollocs eats what remains of her and she's never seen again and the series ends. Just joking. Obviously, the series wouldn't end if Nynaeve died, simply because she's utterly irrelevant and a side character. And every second the entire show focuses on her, we're just wasting more time that could be spent on the actual characters that matter, otherwise known as the ones with dangly bits. Instead, no, what we've got is spending a long time on a really small part of the books, which was sped over at record speed because nobody cares. Because going from novice to accepted actually isn't that big a deal. That's why this is a test they give novices that literally every single person has to pass. But we get introduced to her dad.
Where did you get those?
Oh, it's some red roots. Only introduced because later you're gonna have to know that the red roots are bad. Luckily though, the dad has a great way for you to remember what's good and bad to eat.
Crimson thorn roots are poisonous. Remember, red is dead.
Yeah, that's why you should never eat those strawberries. Never know what they got planning on the side. People eat them all the time, but I don't trust them, not after what that guy's told me. I think they're planning a coup.
Are you taking the piss?
But at that moment, he sees something in the woods.
What is that?
It turns out to be a guy with a bow and arrow in the woods.
What is that?
Most people would say, who is that? But no, not our Mr. Smarty Pants over here. And you know he's smart because this happens. They obviously draw their bows. Release the arrows. The arrows are flying at him. Guess I better just stand here and squint. I think I can see something in the distance, love. But thankfully, as in the world, men have evolved to stay at home and look after kids. Their reactions, they're just not as good as they should be. But the female warriors and hunters that evolved for their twitch reflexes and agile muscles, she dives in with a warrior instinct to protect the mother. Remember, she's supposed to be a tiny little child right now. We know that because this is her reflection. Luckily, though, because she's evolved to be the taller, stronger, more muscular half of the human species, she could still physically overpower the weaker half. Otherwise, he'd be dead. So they start shooting more arrows at them. Apparently they're all terrible shots now. And he just gets immediately caught and put on a rock. She comes back and tries to save him again, you know. Remember, she's a 3-year-old girl at this point, wrestling with a guy over a sword arm. No one said Rafe was intelligent. Like, no one. He's the kind of person even his parents would keep him around because he'd make the potted plants feel better about themselves. They grew a lot better when they felt there was someone in the vicinity that was beneath them. So they immediately start destroying him and Nynaeve. Obviously, as a bloke, nobody expected him to be able to fight. It's not something men have actually very good at. It's renowned throughout history. We don't do it very much. We're pacifists. But Nynaeve, I did expect more from her. Being a tiny little girl really should have got her girl boss instinct off during this scene. Just never came across. I mean, there's only 5 of them, love. You should have been able to handle them instantly. Really coming across with that cowardice energy here, love, I'm telling you. So she gets done in the shoulder. Couldn't even fight off 5 guys on her own. Ahsoka would have handled them like nobody's business. But don't worry, this person that's never fired a bow in their life will definitely come and save them. I don't know, maybe there's some kind of visual clue that I picked up on. They only held this image on the screen for a split second because it looked so awful. What was that? But she takes out 2 of them. For some reason, that's enough. There was an entire army coming down the forest towards them, but no, she shot 2, and everyone's just like, just let them go, please. Or at least let them run off first, and then we'll chase them. We've got an entire horde of people that are now after them all of a sudden. They run away. They decide to go into their house. I don't know why. You can't guard your house, so you'd be better off running and hoping that you lose them. Instead, they're going into a dead end. I can only assume the man is responsible for this decision because there's no way the mother would have made such a pathetic choice. Girl bosses don't make mistakes. Yes, as you can see, he was the first to the door. Obviously his decision. His decision to send her down to the basement. So he takes the little girl downstairs. Well, the warrior half of the relationship obviously decides to fight in close quarters with a bow. As you know, only ever pull a bowstring back to the front of your nose. That's how you get all the power in it. But while she's getting ready to fight in sword range with the bow, we get the man downstairs looking after the child. It just makes sense to have the weaker, less muscular person downstairs looking after the child so the far greater warrior can defend the house. So they definitely made the right decision here. Now he gives her one thing to do, but this is Nynaeve, so obviously she can't even do that.
Whatever happens, you have to be very quiet.
Yeah, she doesn't do that. It's Nynaeve. I'm surprised she didn't go up and start lecturing them about what they should do with their boots. I don't think you should be drinking Matrim Cawthorn. Oh, what an interesting side character she was. Glad we've made the worst characters the most important ones in the show.
And stay down here.
I can help you, Dad.
Couldn't even help yourself out of a fire, love. So he starts praying, and they finally reach the upstairs door. There's a fight goes on upstairs, and this person who's supposed to be about 5 in the sequence decides to go and grab a cleaver, and she's like, I'm gonna go upstairs. But at that moment, the way back will only appear once, and it's behind her. You've got to leave your parents upstairs, who are already dead, or go to safety. I'm like, you do realize what the entire point of these things were, right? The point of the gates was to tempt them, to give them some reason that they wanted to stay in this world versus going back to the tower and becoming an Aes Sedai. The entire point of the test was, you need to want to become an Aes Sedai more than anything else. But what's tempting about this? Your family has just died, there's literally nothing waiting for you upstairs more than death, or you can just leave and become an Aes Sedai. There is no reason for her to stay in this realm anymore, they've just killed it. So leaving is an easy choice. Now there are ways they could have got around this, like she could have had the power to bring them back and save them. Like, you can either save your family or become an Aes Sedai. That would have been a choice. But as this is a group that Rafe hired, they don't seem to have morals or family attachments. If you don't care about anyone but yourself, you won't understand what the point of this test was, or why yours doesn't make any sense. So she's like, oh, of course I'll leave. What's waiting for me up there? Death? That's not a reason to stay, that's a reason to leave.
Whatever happens, you have to be very quiet.
You were only told to shut up, you daft bint. You had one decision. Stay quiet above all costs. Mom! Oh, we're gonna pretend to have an emotional scene, but because we don't understand how humanity works or social relationships, this entire thing comes across as nonsense. So she leaves and goes back to the Aes Sedai. Leandrin just pours cold water over it. First time I've liked Leandrin out the entire show, gotta be honest. The next Aes Sedai heals her.
The way back will come, but once.
Unless it comes twice. You can't keep repeating a line from the books if you then change it in the show and have it destroy your entire story. The fact that Amazon even considers giving you any money bewilders me. In this one, she wakes up back in the Two Rivers. For once, they actually took something from the books. I mean, it doesn't last, but you know, at least they actually opened the book for once in the show. There's a sickness going through the Two Rivers, and Rand's father has it. She realizes that they've been given the horrible, deadly herbs from the first bit. Remember?
Red is dead.
Which is why nobody eats strawberries. And she finds out that Matt's mum, I think,
Matty Coulson.
has been named Wisdom, and although she doesn't know what the herbs does, she knows what that one does. And it's basically, they're going to die anyway, and so that will make it easier on them. Obviously, this wouldn't happen. They would just get advice from a wisdom from another town, or the wisdom would come over from that town, because this would be a major event in the area. But Rafe and his cronies don't understand human interaction, and so they can't comprehend actually helping somebody.
If you are doing this for someone else, you will fail. Do this for you, or not at all.
Especially in a small town, because they live in Hollywood. Whereas we've already seen in the series, it's just, you better do it for yourself and not other people, otherwise you'll fail. So Nynaeve's an idiot, and she starts going, well, the Aes Sedai can save them. What? Firstly, they'd have to get here in time, you daft cow. You can't phone them up on a telephone, that's not how any of this works. Secondly, the Two Rivers has barely seen an outsider for thousands of years. Why do you think that the Aes Sedai would start turning up now?
There has to be another way. We can't. Don't judge me, girl.
Judge her. Judge everybody. Everybody should be judging everybody else. You bring it out into the public scale, you get judged. Don't judge me for murdering my own town. No, actually, I think I will. What are you going to do about it if you don't like it? Judge me? Oh, the horror. Shut up, you hypocrite.
Your job was to protect us, and you left us.
Her job was to heal you, actually. Then she left you. It's the men's job to protect you. So she says, well, if you can heal them, do it. So she walks back over to Tam and starts trying to heal him. She doesn't even know the healing weave. At this point in the story, she didn't know the healing weave either. I'm pretty sure she hadn't even been shown the healing weave by this point in the story. I know what you're doing, love, whether you're just trying to, like, stroke a kitten or something, an invisible kitten. But obviously that doesn't work. And this is a far better version of the Archer story than the previous one, because this actually involves something Nynaeve cares about. I will tempt you to stay in the Archers by trying to help these people, your town, or you can go and be an Aes Sedai. Rather than, I'm gonna kill everything you love. Or you could go and be an Aes Sedai. This is the better temptation, probably. It's from the books.
Can't tell you what a comfort it is to see your face.
Oh, I can understand why they had to give him the red herb, mate. You are completely delusional. I wasn't expecting him to be that far gone. Cawthorn had it down. There's nothing you can do to save him at this point. Now, the stupid thing is, they don't use the temptation of, you could stay here and save all these people and look after your town, or go and be an Aes Sedai. The temptation is, Rand's father want to stay with you while the herbs kill him, or go and be an Aes Sedai. So while the story's good, they took the moral of the story and removed it, like Satan, and replaced it with their own immoral story, which doesn't make any sense. Because this is Rafe, who has the literary talent of a dung beetle, which is why everything he touches turns to shit. So she goes back, because for some reason, watch us all die or become an Aes Sedai isn't that big a challenge to choose from. Why they should have allowed her to save them. She gets more water dumped over her head, but she's like, we need to go to the Two Rivers, there's a plague there, we need to save them. To which their reply is,
Every woman's fears are her own property. Do not burden us with them.
yeah, piss off, Nynaeve. We don't want to hear about your troubles. Shut your gob, love. Second time I've liked Leandrin in one episode. What's going on? We're fed up of your whining. Just go into the third one and shut your gob.
The way back will come, but once.
Unless it comes twice. So then she goes into the third one, and she's in the darkness. And we basically get Nynaeve in some weird photo ops. Looks like she's getting haunted by Casper the Ghost. like a photo op from students done on an iPhone. It's strange. Just take weird angles, it'll look funny. Basically, you're supposed to think something horrific has happened, and it has. They created a season 2 of Wheel of Time, and they're doing a third one. So at least they got that down. Problem with this scene is, literally no one cares if she lives or dies. So, oh, she's suffering. Whatever shall I do with my time? Do I think I can make coffee before she comes out of the arches? I'm not sure. I have the same kind of concern for her as I do when I find out that Sauron has lost his ring. It's like, oh no, that'll be a bit of a shame for him, won't it? Hope he finds that again. It'd be a shame if he lost his property forever. That is a bit of a unique take on Lord of the Rings, though, isn't it? It's essentially a group of thieves that spend years trying to avoid the rightful owner in an attempt to commit criminal damage. Like I say, in these reviews, you've got to make your own entertainment, and that involves creating your own stories. But then she comes out the other side, and she's absolutely covered in blood. Not her blood, and she's holding Lan's hair. Obviously, she's not particularly happy about this, as it seems like she's slaughtered Lan, and she has absolutely no memory of what she did. Might be for the best.
Sometimes it's best not to remember.
That's what I repeat back to myself in the mirror after every episode. At this point, it's become like a personal defense mantra. I'm trying to create a sort of intentional personal amnesia. I was inspired by every single person who's ever met Meghan Markle. Harry's so good at it, he even forgot his own family. But at that point, she gets offered the accepted ring, which she promptly turns down. After screaming no a few times, without explaining, she accuses Leandrin of messing with them. And on the one hand, you're like, that would be something she would absolutely do. On the other, it's probably not how these things work, and she definitely wouldn't have the knowledge to do it.
What did you make me do? Your fears are your own property, child.
Third time I've liked Leandrin in one episode. Just stop whining about your fears at me, love, I don't care. These are your problems, just piss off. She starts saying, well, if I have to give everything up to be an Aes Sedai, and that's what this test is for, then I want to become one. It's like, well, that is what this test is for. To tempt you to see if you want to become an Aes Sedai more than anything else. You don't want to become one? Fine, piss off. So she turns down the ring. Leandrin says if you go through that door, you'll never be able to become a sister, and she just walks off. So she packs, Egwene comes in.
You can't leave.
Well, now you've turned up, I want to leave even more, mate. I'm not even Aes Sedai, I don't want to be here anymore. You've just got that naturally repulsive presence. You're lucky she doesn't jump out the window, love.
I need you.
Oh, I'm definitely not staying. I need you to jump off a bridge. We can't always get what we want.
I came here for you, Egwene.
That's not true. She came here for Rand, but they came to the White Tower when they found out that they were now obsessed with Rand. She also came because she naturally loves healing, so if she can find out how to be a better healer, she wants to be a better healer to save more people. But the point was, if this entire institution is going to be focused on Rand when they learn who he is, then we should become as powerful as possible so that we can help protect him. Nobody joined the White Tower to protect Egwene.
The truth is, you don't need my protection.
Yeah, you just got a girl boss over everybody's face. Luckily, you were born as the taller, more physically powerful and powerful in the magic half of the species. That way, no one can oppose you.
Do you know what Aes Sedai means in the Old Tongue?
Depends whether you mean in the books or this show. In this show, I can only assume it means massive, egotistical tyrants with no morality.
Servants of all.
Oh, you mean from the books? Okay, fine. The creator should probably go back into season 1 and see whether you think you accurately summarized that term when Siuan is acting like a lunatic.
You're gonna be a woman who's actually worthy of that title.
Okay, you're having a laugh. In no world here or the next is that true. But Nynaeve leaves the White Tower and she goes back towards the Two Rivers. But first she meets Lan. Yeah, last time I saw you, I was ripping your face off. So they get back together. And we get the most unland thing of Lan to ever have not land.
I don't know what's left for me there, but I know I don't belong here.
I could come with you.
No, he couldn't. Lan was only sworn to do one thing, and that was to fight the evil that came out of the Blight. And he's just like, I could give up every single promise I've ever made in my life, every oath, everything I've ever stood for, and I could do it for some random mid that I've met 5 seconds ago.
What about Moraine?
No one cares about Moraine. Moraine's a side character, love. If you understood anything about him at all, you would say, what about your oaths? What about your life debt? What about the sole thing that you've sworn to do in your entire being? Not, oh, what about this random wench?
The bond.
The bond. She can release him from a bond whenever she wants. The bond is irrelevant. It's also at that point you're supposed to go, oh, so it's a dream because he's not actually bonded right now. But, you know. So while they get together, the doorway appears behind her. And this is the last temptation. The life that you could have with the love of your life, or you could be an Aes Sedai. When they speak about fears of the Arches, they essentially means the fear of loss. And yet, Nynaeve...
I thought I heard something.
Yeah, it's your only way out of this world, love. The way will come but once, remember?
The way back will come but once.
Unless it comes twice. So she turns around, sees the Arches, and just watches them vanish.
It was a strange feeling, like this was all a dream.
Now, none of this is meant to happen. She's not meant to forget about the archers. She's meant to know what they are and make an active choice against them, but in this it's like, oh well, she just forgot, innit? So with that, they see the gateway close and her not come out.
Nynaeve Elmira has made her choice.
They seem remarkably calm, considering the most powerful channeler in 1,000 years essentially yeeted themselves off a cliff.
Alana was right. She wasn't ready.
Well, that's weird, considering in the books, she enters the tower and the first thing she does is the accepted test, because she was too old to become a novice, virtually too old to become an accepted. So why making a big deal out of this doesn't make any sense. The first thing that she does is walk through them. Piece of piss.
We've lost women to the archers before.
Yeah, but this is the most powerful channeler in 1,000 years, love.
I hope your conscience never lets you make peace with that.
That goes out to you, Rafe, the person that thinks he can improve the books, but he can't even write down a recipe list without destroying it. So then she starts crying and gets really upset. I don't know why. She hated her in the last episode.
Get out, you stupid girl!
And this is Leandrin. Definitely doesn't care about Nynaeve. What on earth are you doing, you talentless hacks? So then we get more fighting with the Seanchan. Again, none of this happened. This isn't what they do. They just collected people together and go, read the oaths, and then people did. Because it's a few lines that you don't care about, and then you go back to your life before. There was none of this violence and aggression.
Who are they? What do they want?
It's Rafe Judkins, and he wants the death of this IP and to burn as much of Amazon's money as physically possible. At least that's what all evidence points to. But no, they start beating people up for no reason. The entire point of them coming over was they wanted as peaceful as transition as possible to preserve all infrastructure, but she starts flicking her fingers at people as to give commands. We have the Damani come forwards with her ball gag in, and she starts pointing at random women in the crowd, presumably detecting people who have the potential to channel, I guess. Them doing it this way doesn't make any sense. Somebody has to control them. There's a reason why I had a test they used to give people to see whether you could channel. Because if you can just walk up to somebody and point to them, the second half of the Damani couldn't exist. But this is Rafe, and he doesn't know or care about the law, so he's not going to have considered the repercussions of this scene. If it causes him any problems, he'll just change it in the future anyway. Cause some more problems later down the line with that one as well. But they continue for a long time, just picking girls out the crowd. And with a raised finger, Saroth, I think she is, sends forward her voice.
You have forgotten your history. You squat on stolen land.
Don't know if you can gather what they're trying to shove in your face with that one. None of this is true. No one's squatting. This isn't stolen land. They are the returned armies and descendants of Arthur Hawkwing. But the people living in the current land are also descendants of Arthur Hawkwing. It's the same people. They have the same heritage. They saw these people as those who had just forgotten what they'd promised, not as squatters on stolen land. But we have to take all fantasy worlds and Americanize them because, you know, they've been around for at least a couple of 100 years, and that means their history and culture is like so refined or something. They've been around 200 years. Surely their values have become universal by now.
And will be ours once again.
It already is yours if they just swear the oaths. That's why you don't go around beating them up before they've sworn the oaths. But this guy is the only one who's getting mad about it, and for some reason thinks they can all beat them, despite the fact he knows they can't because he knows they've got channelers. So there's literally nothing he can do. And he's hiding a secret weapon that for some reason nobody found, even though it's a big metal stick on his hip. And don't worry, this strong, independent, definitely person who hasn't been on stolen land takes her helmet off so that you can see everything about her identity that matters. Rafe is actually so bad at what he does, it's like getting hit in the face with a sledgehammer, because he lacks any kind of nuance or subtlety. It's like getting philosophy explained to you by a 2-year-old. He's like, I think, therefore I'm a strawberry, is essentially Rafe's philosophy. So they get the Soldam to show what you should do to prove your loyalty. And he notices he's getting stared at by strong, independent body type 1, which makes it even more stupid when somebody is literally just standing this far away from you to actually think you can do something, which is the entire point. They don't actually want to hurt any of these people. You might as well just shut up and say the oaths then. The oaths aren't even rough. It's like, yeah, I won't do anything to the Seanchan. They're Arthur Hawkwing's armies. So she drags him out first to say the oaths. He tries to attack him with his dagger for absolutely no reason whatsoever in front of everybody, achieving nothing. They just made him an idiot. He's not like Egwene or Nynaeve. He's not one of these main characters. So they tell him to avert his eyes. He doesn't. They tell him to kneel. He doesn't.
Bend the knee and swear the oath.
This is like when Ahsoka was told, do you want to live or die? And she said, I don't know. Oh, it's such a difficult question. Do I want to survive? All he's got to do is repeat a few lines and they'll just let him go. That's why everybody repeated the oaths. There was no reason not to. they were peaceful if you just said the pissing oaths. The entire point was the peasantry doesn't care who leads them because paying taxes to one group of people is almost the same as paying taxes to another group of people, and the Seanchan didn't interfere with your lives. As long as you said the oaths, your life just continued as normal. That's why they had to completely destroy them in this. They had to make them seem horrible, otherwise none of this makes any sense. And it doesn't make any sense. So he spits in front of her, and we're like, well, now you get what's coming to you. You're just an idiot. Unfortunately, it does lead to one loss of a great character. So Sareth gets offended, and she gets them to kill him by just smashing his head onto the big metal spike.
Those who will not swear the oath will have the oaths worn for them.
It's almost like you should just say it then. To wait to serve. Is that it? 6 words. 6 words to save your life. Do you want to live or die? I don't know. Oh. Can we run all Hollywood writers through an IQ test, please? Also, can we give them some kind of societal test where if they don't understand human relationships, they just get fired? So now he's dead. Everyone else is like, whoa. We better actually say the oaths then, because our life's worth more than our pride. Why didn't you just say them before anyway? The oaths mean a lot to the Seanchan, but it means nothing to you. So you say the oaths, they let you go, do whatever you pissing want. Nobody struggled just saying the oaths to get stuff done in the books. I don't know why you've made an entire storyline out of being an idiot. I think this is just something Rafe would really struggle with because he doesn't have the intelligence to actually think. He can't realise, well, if I just say the words, I can get stuff done.
All will.
2 things. Firstly, can't intimidate anyone when you're wearing lipstick. It's not actually physically possible. You've also got so much mascara on, it looks like you've done it to within an inch of your own life. Can't intimidate somebody when you've got makeup on. Secondly, you literally have someone called The Voice, who is your voice. What the pissing hell are you doing speaking, love? So with that, everybody kneels. You make a show of one person and everybody else crumbles.
Our pride is not worth more than our lives.
Why did you think it was before? Do you want to say some meaningless words that you don't believe in so you can go, yeah, I think I will, mate, it's fine. Why before that showcase were you considering fighting tens of people with swords and multiple people who could use the one power? All of which, of course, never happened. Perrin's left the last one standing, which he absolutely wouldn't be. Unless you're saying he's so stupid he can't physically work it through in his head that fast. Which case, the actor's doing a great job of portraying that.
I swear to obey, to await, and to serve.
To obey, to await, and to serve. That's all you had to say, and everything's fine. You just go around your normal daily life. And some people were like, I won't do that. Why? That's not an oath, that's an IQ test. So then we get Rand visiting, is it Tame? I can't even remember. He calls Rand out immediately. You've shaved your hair, but it's obvious you're a heel. That I know it's taken you months to get in here, so what do you want from me? And that he obviously took out the guy that used to serve him. This entire scene is largely pointless. Of course it is. Rafe's made it up. But then we're going to annihilate the law, because of course we do. This is Wheel of Time. The one where some people say it's a different turning of the wheel, but we've also entirely changed how the magic system works, and therefore it can't even be remotely the same universe. Ignore that though. Mesrim says he actually remembers him. It was at Tarvalen when he was going through the streets. He saw Rand and saw something he couldn't have seen.
I can see it. When another man can channel, there's a glow.
No, there isn't. This is nonsense. Even one short Google search would have told you there isn't a glow when a man looks at another man. No man can tell at sight if another man can channel unless the other man has sees sight in. Unlike women, men cannot immediately tell if another man is able to channel. They cannot even see when another man is holding the power, or they may sense it and can judge roughly how much is being held. But this would imply that there's 2 halves of the power and that actually men and women work differently, which you can't have nowadays. That's too problematic for a lunatic like Rafe. Therefore, the idea must be destroyed. It's another turning of the wheel. Can't be. They've changed the entire magic system. What you've got isn't Wheel of Time, by definition.
Yours was brighter than any I've ever seen.
That's because you couldn't see it, mate. So, you're delusional. And so, because this is Rand, and therefore he's the main character and the only one that matters in the entire series, and he's the one that everything revolves around, they decide to send him on an MMO fetch quest like the Mandalorian. I need you to train me about the power. I will if you fetch me some red wine from far away. Right. Well, all the useless side characters in the tower are just off waffling, doing nothing. So off he goes back home, where there's a guy outside talking about the hunt for the horn. We must send people out looking for it, and if you do, you'll get half the queen's entire wealth. Then we have the most beautiful woman in the world sitting at a bench. And at that point, Rand gets an idea. It seems that this is actually Celine's bar. And because of that, he goes to her bar and starts looking for this rare, far away, international wine.
Looking for something special?
Go down and red.
Obviously it's not here. I don't know why he thought it would be. If he did think it was here, at Celine's bar, why he didn't just ask Celine if she had any, I don't know. It's not as if he doesn't know her quite well.
Good luck finding a bottle like that in the fall gate.
And so instead, he asks her where he can get it. And so with that, she comes up with a plan to find one.
Can't you leave us together a hangover cure?
Elaine and Egwene are now walking through the tower, completely hungover, apparently. Yeah, because novices were allowed to do that. What is happening? In the books, these were essentially kids, and now you've just, aged them up so you can just make them degenerate arseholes. Congratulations! We're training to save the world. Might as well get the princess to apparently be somebody who can just make booze and get pissed all the time. That's so Elaine. You've got a character, right down.
Thought you were an innkeeper's daughter. Should be no stranger to hard liquor.
Except for the fact that she was meant to be a child at this point. You'd assume that an innkeeper would keep better control of their daughter. Especially you would think that Elaine, the pissing princess, raised in a castle to be prim and proper, and you're just like, everybody's a whore. But they enter Nynaeve's bedroom, find Sheriam there, and Sheriam just delivers the news to him bluntly. If someone's childhood friends walked into the bedroom when I was cleaning up the belongings, I probably wouldn't just go, by the way, guys, she's dead. She isn't coming back, she's dead. You should probably just get over it, love. I don't know why it's delivered this way.
No, this isn't how I intended for you to find out. I'm sorry.
I don't know, I just expected a bit more. Like I say, the writers of this clearly haven't had any kind of social interaction in their entire life. This isn't a place I thought I'd normally go, but who hurt you? Somebody must have.
I will speak bluntly, not out of cruelty, but out of respect for you. Nynaeve is dead.
What an arse. Yeah, she's dead, mate. Who cares? We're not going to bother try and save her. We just walked out and left. She didn't come out. It's her fault. Who cares? I mean, honestly, I've never felt more like Sheriam in my entire life. If I could, I'd just have celebratory confetti pop down behind me now.
Egwene, whatever you're... Get out!
Based economy.
We could have saved her, but you were there, getting pissed. Absolutely useless cretin.
I don't even know you. I don't want you here. Just get out!
Alright, well, that's meant to be my job. Now we have a really weird scene with Leandrin and Matt. We're supposed to believe that Leandrin is really missing Nynaeve. Absolutely no reason. Doesn't even fit with the story, the character, in the books or this one, so... But no, she's really upset, and she's got her jaw prepared. Stick a jetpack to her, she'll cut through a wall. So he starts mouthing off, and she just has to go back at him. Oh, you're useless and pathetic. I don't really care. It's not Matt. This isn't Matt's character, and what she says doesn't describe Matt's character at all. He was better in the books, he's useless in this, and by putting him in prison, you've destroyed everything about him, so this entire scene can piss off. But she says he's free to go, and he just kind of well, I don't like it. She's like, Egwene's here, and so Egwene needs you as a friend, and it's like, why does she care? Then she starts talking about how she did it all for Moraine, which doesn't make any sense either. Please stop drawing attention to the things that you've changed, because the things that you've changed all have massive plot holes in them. So she walks off and leaves him, and he starts mouthing off, so she comes back to insult him again.
She needed my help. For the past 5 months I've been here.
Yeah, but you were here barely just to drop off food, and for absolutely no reason. I think we could probably skip the rest of the scene. It's entirely pointless. It's got nothing to do with the books, nothing to do with this story, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why Moraine would have got a red sister to look after him in the first place if that just meant lock him up in a tower for 5 months. This is stupid. So she starts calling him an insidious coward who mistakes his own moral failings for conning. It's like, no, he doesn't. Literally none of that is Matt's character. So we're supposed to think he's really affected by this brutal tirade. And in other words, he'd just be like, that doesn't describe me at all, you useless cow.
Desperate boy who wallows in self-pity.
Projection, my lord. I would have laughed in your face.
Blaming his friends for leaving him. I know you, Matt Cawthon.
I know you, Matt Cawthon, you left before you would again. He's like, I'm shivering. The truth is hurting me so much. Literally none of this is the character. So she walks off and goes to melt Nynaeve's ring. Egwene turns up, starts blaming her, saying you did this. But when she just ignores Egwene, we get this from her.
I'm not done with you!
I would yeet you off the side of the tower, love. No, novices don't go around doing this to Aes Sedai. Why are we letting novices do this? How do novices even know to do this? In the books, there are reasons why Egwene actually knows things that she shouldn't know. It's like Rand. Rand also met people who trained him to handle things that came before him. Egwene had various different experiences with different people, which explained why she knew weaves that other people didn't. No, she didn't go around attacking Aes Sedai, because she wasn't a pissing lunatic. So Leandrin just dismantles the weave, and then decides to at least teach her a little lesson.
You, supposed not one. The girl who knew her place. The girl who knew how dangerous it is.
Whereas Egwene doesn't even know to stop backing up when you're walking towards an hedge without a rail on it. She should have just been pushed off at this point. Nobody cares. It's not as if you're following the books anyway, so if there's any character that isn't needed and you can just write out of it, just make it Egwene. Who cares? Get rid of Egwene, focus on the 3 guys, the main characters. Job done. I mean, you've already destroyed the Aes Sedai far beyond actually being able to recover them, so you might as well just write them out of the book.
It's not always the most powerful women
who write history.
No, it's the ones who marry the most important men.
It's the ones who survive.
What? That's a hell of a lot of people writing history, love. I don't think you've thought about that one. You do realise everybody survives for their entire life. Is there at least a cut-off point at some point? Like, you've got to be at least 75? I don't know. I have a feeling you didn't think that one through. This is like a boat floating because it looks upwards.
You remember your place and you just might.
Just push her off and have done with it, love. The world will be a better place.
You have no idea what I'm capable of.
Oh yes, the novice standing up to the Aes Sedai and just be like, well, we can at least find out what noise you'll make on the way down. Pfft. What an insufferable little arse you have created in this show. So then we go for a fancy dinner. None of this happened. There was a fancy dinner, but by this point, Matt and Perrin were also there. And so was Tom, you know. Because somebody had to teach Rand about the game of houses. Whereas in this, we've got to have Celine do it, even though she was vanished for most of the book, so this will be interesting. So Celine comes in and gives him an invitation for a meeting from one of the nobles. This is the inn scene with Rand where he throws it into the fire. This was always going to be one of the problems that Rafe had, because the game of houses is incredibly complicated, and therefore actually requires intelligence to deal with. So the best thing for him to have done would be to not change any of it, because he definitely doesn't understand any of it, and any change he makes will just not make any sense. But she gives him the invitation and goes off to look for a bottle of wine. Meanwhile, a random person comes up to him and starts telling him about the invitation. Oh, you're gonna have to be careful what you do with that one. Either way, people will make decisions about it, which is something he learned from Tom. Why would nobles be teaching other nobles about the game of houses? Doesn't make any sense. The pattern providing Rand all the people he needed to training him about the complexities of life, that made sense. The unfortunate thing about that is all the people he needs to teach him about life are, well, they're basically men. Because being a man, that's who he needs to learn from. They're the ones that know everything he needs to know. How to knit a frilly dress isn't exactly up on his priority list. But he burns the invitation.
Wow, now you really have the houses talking.
Which is basically the inn scene, just done really badly. So then we get a stupid explanation about the hunt for the horn. Actually, the nobles created it in order to get rid of the paws. Is it true? No. So therefore, do I care about it in this scene? No.
But you can't just kick people out of their homes. They'd revolt.
Oh, it's actually a class warfare. Did you get a Son Piker to write this script or something? Actually, he should have Rafe on. I'm sure they'd get down like a house on fire. But then Celine comes back with the wine.
Hunt for the horn is not real. There is no reward.
Yeah, you should have read the books, mate. If you're that disgusted about it now, imagine how disgusted you would have been if you'd know the actual story. You would have ended up like Matt, refusing to do it next season. So Celine starts teaching him the message of Tom, except as if it was all rewritten for a 2-year-old. So rather than talking about the game of houses, she just says, this is the most political city in the world. Everything's part of some scheme. There was more to it than just schemes. It was actually very deep and complicated and about reading people. It was called a game because there was rules to it. People saw layers of different complexity, even where there may not have been, if you didn't know what the rules were. And she's just removed it all down to, yeah, it's political, So he's just like, well, if everyone's part of some scheme, what about you? How do I fit into your schemes?
What is your reason for helping me?
Don't ask questions you know the answer to.
That's a terrible response. Especially when I think Celine would have just, like, answered him because of who you are. So he decides to just walk out on her.
We're going to test the fireworks.
We get fireworks, but of course, just mentioning them is pointless. They actually had a big important part of the story, and then this is like, well, they exist. We give the wine to Tame, and he asks him how can he suppress the urge to actually channel, to which he basically says, you can't, it's here forever, and then laughs. The entire wine was simply there as a metaphor. No matter what you do, no matter how much you resist, it'll just spill out of you anyway, so you're always gonna go mad.
There's no madness, boy.
I don't know, all evidence points to the contrary, mate. But then, after making everyone entirely sure that he's insane, they give him a rant.
The Aes Sedai poisoned the world against man so they can castrate us.
Even though he's probably telling the truth in this universe. We've already seen what the Aes Sedai think and do to men that can channel, and how they revel in their agony and pain. So it's the classic tactic of making a guy look insane, then just have him say something which is actually true. That way people write it off as if, oh, it's just insane. So he starts threatening Rand that you have to get me out of here because I'm the only one who can help you channel. And Rand overpowers him.
You can't help me.
Well, you did break into here because he is the only one that can help you. You spent months getting in here specifically because he does know how to control channeling. Yeah, you can't suppress it, but he still knows how you control it, which you don't. So this scene doesn't make any sense either, but, you know, it's Wheel of Time, what do you expect? Rand is literally twisted on his own plan that he's had for months in about 30 seconds. At that point, Matt finds Egwene crying. and decides to walk off. First sensible thing Matt's ever done, to be honest. Of course, completely goes against Matt's character, not something Matt would have done, but so far Matt hasn't been in this entire series, so at this point, who cares? It's only at this point he realizes, oh, by the way, when I left, I forgot somebody. Yeah, Min. Remember Min? Remember the person where he dug an entire hole in a wall and found her, who's also stuck in here? Yeah, probably should have told her that my door's open and we can escape before I left, right? That seems important. So he shows her that she can escape. And then we also get a reminder that she's also not Min, because this isn't anything Min would act like.
That door's open, and it's time to walk through it, because I'm definitely not waiting for you.
Yeah, not Min. Over to Perrin. For some reason, Ishamael is, well, he's just sitting there staring at him. One of the strongest, most evil people in the entire world, and he's just like, hello, mate.
I was starting to worry you might never wake up.
You what? This guy was a brutal tyrant who would just crush people, and then here he's like, oh, I didn't know how long you'd been asleep. I was taking bets. It's awful character writing in this show. It's really awful. So he basically threatens Perrin that we're taking you to farm, but when you get there, you're gonna basically regret everything about you. I'm gonna make sure you suffer.
Nothing good awaits you in the Harbour City.
This isn't intimidating. I don't even think it's the actor's fault. I think he could probably be intimidating, but whatever you're giving him as a direction isn't intimidating. Oh, between us, though, it's not a coveted invitation. It's not intimidating. Considering the amount of evil people you must have had on staff to destroy this series, I'm surprised you didn't have anyone who could write him better. Is it all because you're a bunch of snivelling cowards? I would love to know, because that's how you've written the most evil guy in history. But then, at that point, the wolves attack. They start jumping on people, scaring horses. We get the Damani to come out and just start firing wind at the various wolves. It was a really stupid idea to have them do this as a convoy where you've got Damani. They would absolutely annihilate wolves. There isn't a hope in hell for the wolves. They wouldn't be firing off little bursts of air. They would be roiling the entire ground and just meat grinding them to death. You have to be really careful when you have a channeler involved in a fight like this. They were weapons of war. A few wolves ain't gonna win. But then we get Perrin in his usual calm, intelligent self, coming up with a plan always to get out of a situation. Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't get you out of your chains, I don't know what will, mate. But at that moment, Elias breaks in to save him. He tells him to run off because, let's face it, if you've ever met Perrin, you actually don't want him to stick around. He'll definitely cause more trouble than he's worth. You can't even think of a way out of some chains. While Elias goes off to fight two people on his own, in full armor. So at least they gave Elias a cool role, even if they did nothing for anyone else. You did cut him out of season 1, so, you know, you owe him. We get Min and Matt both stealing things in order to get away, while she splits off, saying, I need something, and goes to meet Leandrin, who apparently she's been helping Leandrin because Moraine has something over them, and that if they work together, they can make it so that Moraine doesn't have something over them. I don't know, none of this makes any sense, because it's not part of the books. The Aes Sedai were interested in Min because she can see the future, and being able to see the future is obviously a very curious thing to have happen, and so they were very interested in her. And Aes Sedai would love to tie her down in various different plans. But when Min met the main characters, like Rand, and she would see her future is tied up with theirs, and so she stopped fighting it. None of this is needed. The moment she met Rand, she would have known. And so she decides to grab, like, a piece of bread off the side and be like, this is where I spent 10 minutes looking for it, for this one piece of bread. Yeah, you're a great spy, love. If Matt had more than 2 brain cells to rub together, it wouldn't work, but as he doesn't, you're in luck. And we get Celine. Rand comes back, and she starts pinning him against the wall by his throat. How dare you leave me alone in there? It's like, well, that's strange, because you didn't seem that pissed when he left you. You certainly weren't this pissed. And it's very strange that he would even allow this. Just be like, get off, you daft bint.
You ever leave me like that again, and I will kill you.
Yeah, I'd like to see you try. That's all it would take. It's all it should take. Not that he knows any better at this point. But apparently, no, Rand is into that sort of stuff now for some reason. It's also why they had to age him up. It would look very strange if you had like a 46-year-old woman getting with a kid, which is what this would be in the books. Except while he's doing it, suddenly he starts channeling. And then he wakes up, and he's channeling. And he sets the entire building on fire. So I'm guessing all of that was a dream, and he, well, I think the rest speaks for itself. Most people don't end up burning down a town, but, you know, happens to all of us. So he literally burns down his entire building. Apparently didn't think about channeling to put it out. No, don't know why. Cut over to Egwene now, who's channeling into the arches, trying to activate them, even though she knows nothing about them, what she's doing, what kind of weave opens them, how to even start initiating them. So I don't know what she's actually doing.
Bring back a lost friend or lover. It never works.
Well, she doesn't even know how to start doing it, so it won't work for her. But she just say over 100 people have been lost there over 3,000 years.
But she still came for you.
No, she didn't. She came for Rand. No one gives a piss about Egwene. She can walk into the arches now and vanish and literally nothing will change. Who cares? She was a side character, and if she vanished, somebody else would have replaced her because that's exactly all she was there for. She's not one of the 3 guys who are the main characters, so I don't know why you're spending so long waffling on about them. Nobody cares that Nynaeve's gone. The world wouldn't die if she vanished. And if she goes, we can actually just replace her with an actress who would be more like the role in the first place. So who cares?
Do you really think Nynaeve would want you to throw away your life?
Could we replace Nynaeve with me? I'd have a more interesting answer. Oh, she's like, she's the strongest person I've ever known. It's like, yeah, that always carries extra weight when the person who's saying it's crying. I have a feeling you don't know many strong people, judging by your emotional incontinence.
No one knows what happens in the arches.
Well, I mean, every single Aes Sedai has been through them, so I have a feeling that quite a few people know what happens in the arches.
I can't leave her. I'll get her some blankets.
You'll get her some macas.
I'll get her some blankets.
I'll get her some macas. I can't leave her. It's all right, love. I'll get you a Big Mac. We'll stay the night.
We can stay the night.
Can I get 20 chicken nuggets as well? We'll be here a while, love. At that point, we cut back to Nynaeve in Paradise. She's got a kid, and the kid's got a fake sword. We have Matt here, who's actually dressed up like a noble for some reason. And then we have Lan, who, despite being a master swordsman, has now been reduced to the kitchen for some reason. Why is Nynaeve not in it? I have no idea. This is Rafe. Maybe it's his own personal tastes. Of course, at that moment, there's a problem, and the problem will ruin the entire story and the episode, and make everything that's happened so far entirely pointless. It's some of the worst writing I've ever seen.
The way back will come but once.
Unless it comes twice. So welcome to the farce. Trollocs arrive, start hammering the door. Mommy. Breaking holes in it. So everyone springs into action. Because, of course, in this world, Nynaeve wasn't an Aes Sedai, and so they're trying to say, if she wasn't, this would be the new reality. Despite the fact that if she wasn't an Aes Sedai, literally nothing would have changed. The pattern would have spun out somebody else to have taken her role, because she's quite frankly not that important. If it was Rand, it'd be important. Even if it was one of the other two, it would have been important. But Nynaeve, she's just somebody who can heal. Ooh. The pattern can make somebody as powerful as she is. It wouldn't have been a big deal. Despite that, they send the kid down to the cellar, and while they're down there, the men spring into action, fighting off the Trollocs. So Nynaeve grabs an axe, despite the fact she doesn't know how to wield one. She comes out and sees that one Trolloc is already dead, but so is Matt. That would be Matt. And she takes him by surprise with the axe. The issue is, Perrin is next, because although he takes out this orc, the next orc, rather impressively, throws his axe and takes him in the chest with it. And then we're left with Lan, who's fighting multiple... Have I been calling them orcs, not Trollocs? It's been a very long recording day. I can't even remember. But any time I said orc, just replace it with Trolloc. They're basically the same thing anyway. Robert Jordan, inspired by Lord of the Rings. I don't think anyone's under any illusions about what the Trollocs are. But then, as Lan is fighting the Trollocs, he takes a sword through the chest. Now remember, this entire area is meant to tempt Nynaeve. It's meant to show her things that would keep her here, to test whether she's actually willing to give them up to become an Aes Sedai. Except, in this entire scenario, we've now wiped out everything that would possibly tempt to keep her here. Why would she ever stay when we've just destroyed everything that would keep her here? Doesn't make any sense. What is the point of the arches in these? Because in the books, it made sense. In this is nonsense. You've actually gone against the entire point of the arches, you pissing imbeciles. Especially when what happens next, you're like, well, at least the Trollocs will take care of her. She's like, oh no, now I'm really sad, I'm gonna nuke them all with the power. It's like, well, that's not how your channeling works either, love. Your block is anger, not misery. But she does nuke them all, and then at that moment, the arches appear. Remember, the arch will only appear once, unless it appears twice. So this turns up for no reason.
The way back will come but once.
Unless it appears twice. And then a load of Trollocs that have wiped out the entire town are coming for her, you know, just to make sure she goes through, to scare her even more. And the one temptation you could have is, well, you have to leave your kid, or you can go and be an Aes Sedai. They don't even give her that temptation, because she just picks up the kid and lets her carry her through the gate. So she doesn't even have to make a decision between those two things. What is the entire pissing point? This is the worst writing of anything. You've actually defeated the entire point of your own episode. So then she just runs through and starts screaming and wakes up the other two. And like, so this entire episode was pointless then. Now in the books, yes, she did channel through force of will to bring the gate back. And in this, I'm assuming they're going to say that happened. Oh, well, when she destroyed the Trollocs, for some reason, that brought the gate back. That doesn't make any sense. It's not just channeling. No, what it is another case where you've changed the story from the books, you don't know what you're doing, and so you destroyed everything. Congratulations, I give it to you. Just when I think you've gone as low as you can go, you prove that actually no, IQ can go into minus numbers. You can actually suck out the intellect from people around you. It's impressive. So then like, oh, you've returned! And I don't know what that was. Not want to know what that was. You managed to take a rather minor point from the books and then just destroy it all. And it's about Nynaeve, so I don't even know where you'd want to. You destroyed the entire reason for the test because you physically can't comprehend it. Rand was just, I have no idea what his storyline was meant to be. I need you to train me. I can't train you. I'm the only person that can train you. You've destroyed the game of houses. Perrin's storyline is a load of nonsense because that's not how the Seanchan act. And I suppose the one good thing about this episode was that Elias got to be cool, and he should be, because he's a cool character. So, thank God for small mercies, I guess? I don't know. I've got 2 more of these to do. There's a backlog, and I've not seen them yet, but maybe you have. So if you have, let me know what you think of what you saw down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.